I was invisible and despised by everyone, but I fought, and today, my story of overcoming is unbelievable. I grew up in a family that to the outside world seemed normal, but inside, there was a silent imbalance that shaped my childhood. I was Helena, the eldest daughter, and I believed I would have my place, my worth, and my achievements recognized. Everything changed when my sister Marina was born prematurely. I was 8 years old, and suddenly I realized my life would be relegated to the background. Her every gesture was celebrated as extraordinary, while my own achievements went unnoticed. I became invisible without realizing it, needing to learn that my victories would be celebrated silently, far from my parents' recognition. Lucia and Roberto, without malicious intent but intensely, began to treat Marina as a fragile daughter, relegating my existence to the background. I learned to swallow tears and frustrations as I watched my sister being elevated to a pedestal I could never touch. This dynamic shaped my childhood, teaching me to internalize my feelings and to learn that, often, only we ourselves can recognize our worth. Every small achievement, which to me was huge, was ignored, creating a feeling of invisibility that would stay with me years later. My adolescence was marked by this emotional loneliness. I studied, worked, and dedicated myself, but no one seemed to notice. The feeling of silent abandonment became routine. Every victory, every personal achievement needed to be internalized, without applause, without recognition, without affection. I learned early on that the world was unfair and that my emotional survival depended solely on me. It was in this context that I found my refuge and my passion, antiques and rare jewelry. Every piece I restored, every story I deciphered, was a reminder that I had value, even if no one else saw it. Financial and emotional independence began to take shape in this world, and each step brought me closer to the woman who would one day be the master of her own life. With each study and practice, I felt a silent strength grow within me, a conviction that my life could be different, that my worth would no longer be ignored, even if my family didn't realize it. Transforming pain into determination became essential. I worked from a young age, accumulated experience, took courses, and invested in skills that no one valued, but which allowed me to glimpse freedom. I learned to negotiate, research, understand markets, and develop my passion into a career. Each step represented a silent victory over the invisibility that plagued me. My effort became my shield, my form of resistance, and my way of proving to myself that I could succeed, even without support. The path was arduous and lonely, but with each achievement, the feeling of power and autonomy intensified, preparing me for future challenges. My career began modestly but solidly. I worked in antique shops, participated in auctions, and learned techniques for appraising and restoring rare jewelry. Each transaction, each client, and each piece was an opportunity to showcase my talent and develop independence. My family was unaware of my progress, and this gave me a feeling of protection and security. Quiet success allowed me to grow emotionally and financially without outside interference, and each step built not only my wealth but also my self-esteem and confidence. For years, I lived in this balance, invisible to my family, but growing silently. Each achievement was proof that I could build my life on my own. My wealth and success were not for show, but for protection and self-recognition. The feeling of autonomy grew stronger and stronger, and the certainty that I could exist fully without needing the approval of those who ignored me took hold. It was a silent but powerful growth, preparing me for a decisive moment that would change everything. The moment that would change my relationship with my family happened at Thanksgiving dinner. Until then, I'd always kept my accomplishments secret, but that year, a cousin's comment about an investment I'd made years ago unexpectedly brought my wealth to light. My mother, Lucia, widened her eyes. My father, Roberto, fell silent, and Marina couldn't hide her surprise. The words that echoed through the room were devastating. "You should help your sister. She deserves more." In that moment, all the accumulated pain from years of neglect and favoritism came flooding back. I felt a mixture of disbelief, anger, and sadness. For the first time, I felt pressured not only to share my success, but to justify my existence and efforts to those who had always ignored me. My father tried to smooth things over, reminding me that I had always been independent, competent, and capable, but that Marina needed support. This only reinforced the feeling of injustice I'd carried since childhood. For years, my achievements had been invisible, my victories celebrated only in silence. Now, they were demanding that I give up what I had earned through effort and sacrifice. The feeling of emotional pressure was almost suffocating. I realized that this relationship was never based on recognition, but on control and unfair expectations. My decision needed to be firm, because for the first time, I realized that my worth was not at anyone's disposal. I spent the night thinking, pacing my room, reliving moments from my childhood when I was invisible. Every swallowed tear, every silent achievement, and every unrecognized effort came back to me. I considered giving in, as always, just to ease the family tension. But in that moment, I realized I could no longer give up on myself. I needed to protect my autonomy, my assets, and my self-esteem. For the first time, I understood that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, but a necessary act of emotional survival. My decision wasn't immediate. There was fear, doubt, and uncertainty. I had to face the possibility of being rejected, criticized, or vilified. But an inner strength reminded me of who I was, a woman who built her life alone, who faced challenges without support, and who deserved respect. Every memory of effort and overcoming served as fuel for the strength I needed. I understood that giving in would mean reliving the invisibility that marked my childhood and adolescence, and that my emotional freedom was more valuable than family approval. The next morning, I sat the whole family down at the table and explained my point of view firmly and clearly. I detailed my efforts, my achievements, and the significance of my assets. I said I wouldn't give in to what they considered my sister's deservingness, but that I was willing to help her in other ways, teaching her how to grow, invest, and organize her finances. The silence that followed was heavy, but different from the past. For the first time, I was no longer the invisible daughter. I was a woman who recognized and respected herself, determined to maintain her autonomy and boundaries. In the days that followed, the tension at home was intense. Every message, call, or comment from my family felt like an attempt to pressure me, to make me give in. Marina, who had always been sheltered, now looked at me with disapproval and disbelief, as if I were making a mistake by maintaining my independence. My mother passed by me with disapproving glances, and my father tried to appear neutral, but the frustration in his eyes was evident. For the first time, I realized that my freedom and my worth could not be determined by anyone. I needed to stand firm, even when it seemed everyone around me was against me, trying to manipulate me emotionally. There were moments of intense doubt. At times, I almost found myself giving in, offering something just to ease the pressure and reduce conflict. But every time I thought about it, I remembered the lonely nights of study and work, the hidden tears and the silent achievements I'd built over the years. Each difficulty I faced became fuel to maintain my resolve. For the first time, I understood that overcoming isn't just about overcoming external obstacles, but about internally resisting, even in the face of the most intense emotional pressure. It was during this period that I understood the family's true motivation. It wasn't my money they wanted, but control. Every attempt to make me give in emotionally sought to recast me as the invisible daughter, the one who always sacrificed herself for others. Realizing this was painful because there was still love, or at least the appearance of it, between us. But love conditioned on submission is not true love. I needed to exist for myself, defend my achievements, and assert my autonomy without fear or guilt. Overcoming didn't mean automatically forgetting or forgiving, nor did it mean giving up what was mine. Overcoming meant acknowledging the pain, absorbing it, and transforming it into strength. Every attempt at emotional manipulation I faced became a reminder that I needed to protect my space and my self-esteem. The decision to maintain clear and firm boundaries became an act of courage, not confrontation, and allowed me to finally realize that my existence had intrinsic value, independent of any external approval. Over time, my firmness began to pay off. Lucia and Roberto realized they couldn't manipulate me emotionally, and Marina, confused, began to pull away. It was painful, but necessary. I learned that boundaries aren't barriers to push away those we love, but rather protections to preserve our emotional integrity. For the first time, I felt my existence had weight and recognition, not in the eyes of my family, but in my own. I no longer had to fight to be seen. Finally, I was visible and respected. Over time, I realized that my relationship with my family would never be the same, and I learned to accept that. The most important thing was my emotional freedom and the certainty that my life would not be defined by other people's expectations. I began investing even more in myself, advanced gemology courses, specializations in antiques, and participation in international auctions. Each step was a reaffirmation that my effort and success were mine, the result of my dedication and resilience. I discovered that autonomy and self-respect are achievements that no one can take away, and that every decision I make for my life is a silent but significant victory, capable of transforming my perception of the world and my self-esteem in a profound and lasting way. Even so, the challenges continued. Malicious comments and indirect remarks would crop up at different times, trying to destabilize me or instill guilt. At times, I felt like giving in, offering something just to reduce the emotional pressure and ease family conflicts. But with each temptation, I remembered the lonely nights, the swallowed tears, and the silent victories I'd built. The strength I'd developed over years of silent struggle kept me going. I learned that true strength isn't just about resisting, but about standing firm even in the face of constant pressure and emotionally draining situations. My business grew solidly and consistently. Strategic purchases of rare jewelry, international negotiations, and loyal customers increased my wealth. But the real gain wasn't financial. It was the certainty that my efforts were legitimate, that my achievements had their own value, and that I could support myself without relying on anyone. I discovered that success isn't measured solely in numbers, but in the freedom to make decisions, maintain my values, and transform passion into professional and personal fulfillment. Every victory, every contract closed, and every recognition in the market was a reflection of my determination and resilience. There was a professional celebration party attended by all my family. For the first time, I was the center of attention on my own merit, without feeling guilty or pressured. People recognized my effort, competence, and dedication. The sense of pride and belonging I felt that night was unprecedented. For the first time, I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. My worth was visible, concrete, and unquestionable. This experience cemented in me the realization that my life could be fulfilled and respected without needing the approval of those who had ignored me for years. It was at that moment that I understood the essence of overcoming. It's not just about overcoming external challenges, but about transforming pain into learning, loneliness into strength, and rejection into motivation. Every tear, every sleepless night, every difficulty I faced shaped me and taught me that true victory is born of self-worth. Today, I understand that my greatest achievement is not the financial wealth I've built, but the ability to put myself first, to create healthy boundaries, and to exist fully, even in the face of those who tried to diminish me. Today, when I look at my family, I realize that resentment almost consumed me at times, but I learned to transform it into clarity and strength. Marina grew up surrounded by protection and praise, while I had to fight alone to carve out my place. This difference could have made me bitter, but I transformed it into a learning experience. I understood that I didn't need their approval to validate my existence. Every step I took, every victory, financial or emotional, was a reaffirmation that my life had its own value. The pride of being independent and self-sufficient brought me unprecedented peace, allowing me to rebuild my family relationships on new terms without giving up on myself. The process of overcoming grief also brought me empathy. Today, I can recognize my family's weaknesses, fears, and limitations, but I've learned that empathy doesn't mean submission. It means understanding that each person has their own limits, and that my responsibility isn't to fix anyone's life at the expense of my own happiness. Setting boundaries has become an act of self-love, a necessary gesture to preserve my emotional and mental health, something that years of invisibility have taught me to deeply value. My career and business have prospered, and every decision I make reflects the strength gained from years of silent struggle. Today, I run a solid company with national and international clients and a team that respects my work. I've discovered that the greatest wealth lies not just in the numbers in my bank account, but in the freedom to live according to my own values, to make important decisions, and to feel genuine pride in myself. Every victory, every contract signed, and every recognition is concrete proof that my journey has been legitimate and worthy. The feeling of finally being seen, of existing for myself before anyone else, is indescribable. I don't romanticize the pain because it was intense, raw, and often overwhelming. But I learned that it's possible to transform every wound into strength and every challenge into learning. I've bounced back, not just financially, but but emotionally. Today, I recognize and value myself without needing the approval of those who always ignored me. My victory is concrete, practical, and daily, respecting myself, prioritizing myself, and existing fully, even if some still don't understand. If I could leave a message for anyone reading this, it would be this: overcoming is possible, even when it seems the whole world has forgotten you. It may hurt, it may be lonely, but each step toward your own worth is an immeasurable victory. I am Helena, and the invisible daughter of yesteryear is now the woman who built her life alone, who set limits, who overcame challenges, and who, above all, learned to truly love herself. Every achievement, every decision, and every victory is mine, and no one can take that away from me. This is my story of overcoming, and despite the pain that still exists, I can say with conviction, I won. I learned that overcoming isn't just about resisting adversity, but also about recognizing one's own strength when all seems lost. There were times when I thought I couldn't do it anymore, that the weight of rejection and invisibility would crush me. But every tear shed, every lonely night, every challenge faced taught me something fundamental. The strength to overcome doesn't depend on external applause. It depends on believing in yourself. Overcoming adversity manifests itself when you transform each difficulty into a learning experience, and each failure into an opportunity for growth. Today, I know that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Throughout this journey, I realized that the true power of overcoming adversity lies in consistency. It's not just grand acts that transform lives, but the daily sum of conscious choices, of small efforts that accumulate and build a solid future. Every decision to invest in myself, every hour dedicated to study and work, every successful negotiation in my business was a brick in the construction of my freedom. Today, I can look back and realize that my life is not the result of luck, but of discipline, courage, and self-love. Overcoming also means forgiving yourself for the times you doubted, weakened, or allowed past pain to dictate your decisions. I needed to learn to embrace my own vulnerability, accept my failures, and transform my insecurities into motivation to continue growing. Each time I felt defeated, I found within myself the determination to get up, start over, and continue stronger. Overcoming, I realized, is an ongoing process. It's not about reaching an endpoint, but about moving forward every day, even in the face of pain. Today, I look back on my story and see that every hardship I faced made me more resilient. Rejection, invisibility, and family pressure didn't destroy my self-esteem. On the contrary, they taught me to build a solid foundation of confidence and self-worth. Life gave me challenges, but I transformed them into fuel to become the person I am today. Independent, confident, and capable of creating my own path. And that's the true lesson I want to share. You don't need to wait for others to recognize or value you. The greatest victory is earning your own approval and becoming the protagonist of your life. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's that overcoming is possible, even when everything seems lost. Every step you take toward your emotional freedom, every barrier you bravely face, and every decision that protects your self-esteem is a silent but powerful victory. I'm proof that it's possible to transform pain into strength, invisibility into prominence, and rejection into motivation. Life isn't fair, but you can be. And when you learn to put yourself first, to value yourself, and to believe in your own abilities, you'll discover that true achievement lies within you, ready to be experienced every day.